Good morning and welcome to Marjorie's Table on this last Marjorie's Table of 2025, the 17th of December. As you will have probably noticed from the emails, this is our last one of this year. We're going to have the next couple off weeks off because they fall at particularly awkward times in the holidays. I think it's Christmas Eve and must be Hogmanay, or New Year's Eve, depending on where you are in the world. And we'll be back together on the 7th of January for a Wednesday session. If you are riding with me on the first 2 weeks in the short course in January, the first 2 weeks starting on the 5th, I'll see you on the 5th. And again, if you need a bursary place for that January session, just reach out. Lots of people have, and that's absolutely fine. Lots of folks have signed up and paid. And if you're one of those, thank you. You'll be supporting everybody else who needs a bursary place. So that's how that works. And it makes us all feel like we're helping each other, which is great. I was going to ask a favor this morning, which is if you have enjoyed Marjorie's Table this year, and hopefully you have because you're still here, and could send me a little note about that I could use for marketing, that would be great because I'm particularly bad about shouting about these sorts of things. And I never know what to say. So it's useful if someone gives me a line of saying, oh, I really enjoyed this, or I'm learning this, or I'm writing prose, as someone said to me. And that's really helpful because people think of me as a poet, because I am largely a poet, and therefore think you must write poetry in these sessions, and you don't need to. So, without further ado, let's get started. We're going to do a quick warm up and we're going to look at three poems by one of my favorite poets today. He's easy, he's American, but don't hold it against him. And he breaks all the rules, which I think is really great for us to think about, having looked at all the rules so often this year. We'll look at the way that this poet ignores them all, which I think is a really nice way to finish up. But before we do that, let's do a quick warm up. I'm going to give you two words as ever. There's no right or wrong way to do this. Make a list of whatever comes to your mind for the first word and then the second word, and we'll share some of those words. I can see there's notes in the chat box, and I'm hoping that that's what I think of as the weather report from wherever you are. So thank you if you're doing that. Okay, the first word is familiar. Whatever comes for familiar, make a list of words for familiar. Okay, now swap and do unfamiliar. Whatever comes, doesn't matter. You won't have to explain it. Okay. And if you feel up to it, no pressure, pop a few of your favorite words in the chat box and I'll read them out as they come and I'll join you in that too. Out of sync. Lovely. Chat, fresh cat, routine, comfortable, old, well worn. A couple of comfortables. I think I've put in tender hooks. Voice, comfortable, familiar, lenient. Lenient's interesting. Well trodden and faithful. The idea here too is if you're live Or if you're listening to the recording, steal a couple that you like the sound of and stick them on your list. Well-trodden, witches, imp, homely, safe, challenging, exciting, shaded path, shabby. Shabby's a great word, Katie. Embed, commonplace. That's really nice. Warmth, untrodden, the poem, familiar, the poem. That's so interesting. I think you could have done that for both, Priyanka. Here we go again. That's a lovely phrase. Landmarks, vague, odd out, into the unknown, without a nap. Hotel, hello, hotel, smile, head turn, encountered, banal. Lovely word. Okay, we'll stop there. But if you're live, there are lots of them in the chat box. And then the idea here is if you're writing and you feel up to it, try writing using a word that you wouldn't normally use. Like if you're trying to write about, say, your usual Christmas Eve meal, and then you want to get the word banal in. My brain is already starting to think about what I would describe as banal in that scenario. So often it's interesting to try and use a word that you wouldn't normally use for a scenario. It makes us come, the more I do this, the more I think it makes us come at that scenario from a different angle. And often it makes it feel fresh for us. If it doesn't sound like you and you don't like it, you can always take it out later. And in fact, I think I've said this before, I have a poem that probably will start my second collection that has a word in it that someone else gifted me. And every time I read it, I see it, and actually I don't mind it like that. So today we're going to look at the work of Wendell Berry, who is a favorite of mine. He is a Kentucky farmer and a very well-known poet in the US. Put the link in the chat box. I will also share my screen, but note that it's a poem from the 70s from the Poetry magazine, Poetry Foundation. So it's very small on the screen. Hopefully you can see it once the Zoom gets out of the way. Yeah, so you might need to bring it up on your own screen. Wendell is an environmentalist, a really important environmentalist, and written a lot about uh, our sort of natural world, but also is one of, I'd say, America's most loved poets as well. As I said, don't hold it against him. He's been writing a long time. And here we'll just start with this little poem of his, which breaks, I think, all the rules that I've been talking about all year. So I thought you'd enjoy that. Be still in haste. How quietly I begin again. From this moment, looking at the clock, I start over. So much time has passed and is equaled by whatever split second is present. From this moment is the first. Let me read it one more time, and then I'll give you a couple of craft notes about it, and then I'd love to hear if you have thoughts, what you think about it in the chat box, and I'll read those out. Be still in haste. How quietly I begin again. From this moment, looking at the clock, I start over. So much time has passed and is equaled by whatever split second is present from this moment. This moment is the first. So my notes are, look, he's broken all the rules I've been talking to you about all year. He doesn't have a particular form, 2-line stanzas, 3-line stanzas, 4-line stanzas. He's just paid no attention to any of that. He breaks the lines at the word the, which is not a usual thing that you should do as a poet. And yet, I think, and he's not got a really specific image in the poem. So often I think if you're talking about something big like time, you need something really physical that your reader can see. For me, because I'm a lazy reader, and it's interesting to note how you feel as well. But I think if you're, and this is true in prose as well, if you're talking about a big idea, you usually need something that your reader can picture or see. And he doesn't really do that here. He's got a clock, he's got the word split second, which I think helps. But in general, I think it's quite a big idea poem without all that much that's anchoring it. And yet it works probably for me because it's so spread out on the page, because as a reader, we have a lot of time, right? They're not long, convoluted lines. They're sort of short lines that allow us space between one and the other, and then quite a lot between stanzas. The other thing to say is look at how much work the title is doing. Be still in haste is the kind of imperative here. And so, in some ways, it's the lens. Increasingly, I'm thinking of a title this year as a lens through which to read the poem. It does a huge amount of heavy lifting here. It's asking us to be still in a moment of haste, which I think is perfect for the holidays, really. Um, do you have, I can't see, I don't think any of you have comments on this poem this morning, which is fine. Hope you do. Here they come. Um, the thing I noticed that I was really interested in, especially in the second reading, is that penultimate line. We need to break between moment, this moment. And yet the way it's written is kind of hasty, right? If you read it without pausing, it maybe doesn't make as much sense. And in some ways, that's nice in terms of the theme of the poem because it's about trying to slow down. You're having to slow down to make it make sense, which of course is in a way what the poem is asking us or talking about as well. Okay, Nina loves Wendell Berry. I'm with you, Nina. Lots of pauses and play here. I agree, Priyanka. It's meditative, more you can almost sorry, I've lost that. Hear the tick of a clock in the rhythm. That's a beautiful point. Yes. Whatever split second, I found the most grounding line. Yeah, I think split second is doing that anchoring work that I think good writing needs. You can do both, but you really have to earn usually these sort of big ideas. Message for the new year. Yeah, I agree, Linda. That's why I picked it. It's a meditation, a moment of meditation. No punctuation. Agreed. And so, of course, in order to read it and to make sense of it, we have to slow enough to figure it out. And so it's asking the reader, if you want to engage with the poem, you have to do the thing it's asking you to do, which I think is why it's so clever. Sounds a bit Eckhart Tolle, not a bad be here now, or maybe that's Oasis. That's funny, Richard. The meditative comes from how abstract it is. Yeah, I agree, Nina. So with more concrete anchoring, it wouldn't allow our blank mind. I think the trick there, and it's something for think about for our own writing, is getting that balance right because you've got an entire poem that's sort of ephemeral about love. The danger is that your reader doesn't engage with it. The danger is your reader's lost, at some point gets bored of that kind of ephemeral ideas, because poems aren't essays really. And so you need that sort of physicality in some ways. Often we need an image. I think he does it with the clock and the split second. The short lines and the simplicity cultivates diving down. I agree. This moment reminds me of when I've whistled for my dog to stop. It takes her for a few minutes. Thanks, Mags. That's true. Slowing down. Two, three, four lines reminds me of climbing a hill, reaching the top, starting to come down. That's a really lovely idea, David. Yeah, I think try and think of your own work too in that way. What are you asking in terms of pacing? What are you asking the reader to do? And again, not when we're writing it, not when we're first putting things on pages, but we always talk about this craft in these sessions as a way of learning how we edit our work. And when we go back to something, the way we place it on the page is often a way we're asking our readers to read it. And if you think about it in that way, it's much more helpful than thinking, where does my line end? Because that's where the phrase ends, sort of thing. Concrete words, regardless of the abstractness, and the spaces in between the second is a breathing space. Lovely image, Becca. Okay, I'm going to stop there because we could talk, as always, we could talk about the first poem for the whole half hour, but we're not going to do that. I want you just to write a quick thing, prose, whatever comes, about stillness during haste. A moment of stillness when you're rushing. It's the holiday season. We're all rushing around like crazy people. Is there a moment when you're putting your key in the car door, although we probably don't do that anymore, or when you're unclicking your car, or is there a moment when you're holding a bag waiting for a bus? But just a real moment, take a snapshot moment and write about a moment of stillness in the haste. I'll bring us back together in 6 or 7 minutes. I'll give you a minute's warning and we'll look at another poem by Wendell. I'll pop all of that in the chat box in case you missed it. See you in a minute. Just another minute or so. Okay, I'm going to read you this next one. I've just inverted my plan for today. Hopefully you can see it. The link is in the chat box if you need it. They sit together on the porch. They sit together on the porch, the dark, almost fallen, the house behind them dark. Their supper done with, they have washed and dried the dishes. Only 2 plates now, 2 glasses, 2 knives, 2 forks, 2 spoons. Small work for two. She sits with her hands folded in her lap, at rest. He smokes his pipe. They do not speak, and when they speak, at last it is to say what each one knows the other knows. They have one mind between them now, that finally, for all its knowing, will not exactly know which one goes first through the dark doorway, bidding good night, and which sits on a while alone. Wendell writes beautifully about his wife. I can't recommend his book called A Timbered Choir enough. Instead of going to church, however you feel about that, he used to take a walk every Sunday, and that book is his poems from Sundays. Um, I want us to write in a time of rituals for many of us. I want us to write about an unknown moment in what's to come in the next couple of weeks. It might be when your auntie will finally arrive for the Christmas dinner, the one who's always late. It might be anything, but there's in a time when we know what's coming, what's a moment that's unknown that you're not sure about. So I'll give us 4 or 5 minutes to do that, and then I'll read us out of the room with another Wendell poem. Again, in a time of rituals, what is the unknown moment coming that you're not sure about? Or you could write about one that you didn't see coming in the past. You can always write fiction. The name of the book, Yoko, is A Timbered Choir. I'll pop that in the chat box too. Pop all of that in the chat box and bring us back together in just a few minutes. But again, thinking of an unknown moment that you're not sure about. Okay, I'm going to leave us with this tiny little poem of Wendell's from 1971, which feels, timely for the coming month anyway, called Prayer After Eating. I have taken in the light that quickened eye and leaf. May my brain be bright with praise of what I eat, in the brief blaze of motion and of thought. May I be worthy of my meat. Lovely little bit of rhyming there going on too. Um, so I'll leave you with the prompt of writing about a meal or something that you're worthy of in some way, or unworthy of, but probably worthy of. So write about something that you feel worthy of, a meal that you feel worthy of in some way. Could just be toast, or however it comes. But the idea of being worthy of food is a really interesting question. That's all I think from us this year. So if you've been writing with me all year, bravo. If you've missed sessions, they're all sitting on Substack and they're all still on YouTube. I've not taken any of them down. So you can play with the ones that you've missed over the holidays. If you need help finding them, give me a shout because I can help you. I can direct you to them on YouTube if you'd like. Otherwise, have a great break, and I will see you in early January in a couple of weeks' time. I can't believe we'll be over the hump and into the new year in January, but it's been a great year writing together. I wasn't sure we would still be doing this together. I just wanted to see how it went, but there's enough of you that keep turning up every Wednesday and keep watching those recordings. So I think we'll keep going because it's a great practice for me to find new poets and to introduce, and then also to think about why what they're doing works and doesn't work. It's great for my own practice and my editing practice too. Have a great couple of weeks, everyone. See you in January. And I will take a minute and read all of your lovely comments. But bye for now. It's still dark here in Edinburgh. And I should say that the award goes to Joe Godfrey in the Southern California. Normally it's Kathleen in Massachusetts, but I think he's even further away, which I think probably makes it the middle of the night for you. But that's this day's award. So bravo. Bye, everyone. Have a great holiday season.